What's up, guys? Seth at Huff's Herps. Today, I'm going to talk about incubation of African Fat Tailed Geckos. As I've explained before, these videos are intended to be strictly educational, not flashy, not editing. I'm just trying to get info out there for the people that need to hear it. Before I get started talking about the topic today, I do want to briefly go over something that I think is not spoken about enough in the hobby. If you are thinking about breeding your pet just to do it, just because you see other people breeding their animals and producing other animals, and the only reason is just because you want to do it, my suggestion to you is don't. There are a lot of factors that go into breeding, and until you have really explored all of those things very deeply and made sure that you are prepared in all ways to take care of these animals, that once you make a pairing, you are committing yourself to that female, and you're committing to that female that you're going to be able to give her optimal nutrition throughout the length of that breeding season, and that you're going to be able to provide any kind of extra care if there's something that goes wrong during that breeding process, which things do go wrong. I just performed an operation the other day on one of my females that appeared to be egg bound, and luckily the operation went well, or this procedure went well. It wasn't a surgery, it was a more simple procedure. It went well, and she was able to pass the egg, and she seems to be fine. She's eating and doing well, but that's not always the case. And so, I've been very fortunate to have a very knowledgeable vet that has taught me a lot of things to be able to take care of these animals really well. So it's really important to find the resources that you need before you jump into this, and make sure that you're fully prepared for what you're getting into. That's enough about that. Now I'm going to move on to, if you are wanting to breed and trying to reproduce these guys, I'm going to give you some specific tips that I've learned over the years on how to properly incubate African Fat Tailed Geckos. I'm going to start from the beginning, which is the lay box that I have in the enclosure for the females, and I actually have an example right here, and this female just laid her first clutch of the season, and actually her first clutch ever. She's a 2-year-old female that I got as a little bitty baby from someone that had got some geckos from me. So she's actually 100% my lineage, and so she went back to the same project that she came from, so it was a cool outcrossing, because she had bought a wild caught animal from me as well. But anyway, the animal, a first generation baby that was from wild caught is what she paired the animals to. Anyway, this is the setup for the African Fat Tails for their lay box. It's relatively small because they kind of like tight places. I've actually experimented and put a human hide twice this size in the same enclosure with fat tail females, and they've generally select the smaller one. I make a very small hole in the top, that way you don't have as much evaporation out of it, and I keep that hole off that side of the humid hide. I keep off of the heat. So if this is the heat tape, if my hand is the heat tape, I'll have the back of it on the heat and the front of it off the heat. That way you promote condensation in there but reduce evaporation. And they usually lay their eggs all the way to the bottom, all the way on the heat. So there's the clutch of eggs right there. And the substrate that I use in my lay boxes is a mixture of jungle mix and sand. I don't have an exact ratio, I just kind of do it by feel, but it's definitely more jungle mix than sand. I'd say it's probably 1 part sand to 3 or 4 part jungle mix, if I had to guess the ratio. A lot of people mark their eggs. I don't find any need to. I just place them just like I find them in their egg cup. The egg cups that I use, The egg cups that I use are 5.5 ounce portion cups, I guess they are. And I use a medium called Pangea Hatcham. It's just a clay substrate that when it's dry looks like this. It's very light colored, and then whenever it's hydrated it is much darker. You can see the difference there. Those are some older cups, and then these are hard to see because I just made them, but these are the new cups I'm putting these eggs in. And then I make these little trays out of yarn. I think they're called plastic canvas, or yarn loom is what I've always called them. You can get them square or circular, and I cut all these out by hand. I had a job at the time where I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I was able to do my job properly and still be messing with this. So I cut hundreds of these, and they're very reusable, so I just have a big stock of those that I wash and reuse. So that's my egg cup setup. The rocks, these have to be soaked for about 30 minutes to absorb all the water, and then I set them up in here with about a half full cup, just so it's tall enough that my tray can fit in there properly and not, you know, be all flexed and buckled. And then I kind of tap that tray down, and then I create a little crater in those rocks to where it makes it to where the egg isn't actually touching the rocks at all. It's only touching the plastic tray that it's sitting on. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I like to overhydrate my cups, meaning I soak it for 30 minutes and then I strain it to where, you know, it's soaked rocks, and then I add another 6 cc's of water to each one of these cups. And basically it's putting about a 1/4 inch or so of standing water in the bottom of those rocks, which makes them all fully saturated for the duration of the incubation. And that's important for a couple reasons. But the tray keeps the egg from touching those rocks so that it's not absorbing too much moisture. Basically, I like to keep the cup at 100% humidity. You can put whatever you want below the tray. You just need to make sure that the air is 100% humidity and the egg is not touching any water. It can't be touching soaking wet substrate, or it can't be getting dripped on by condensation from the lid, or it will fail. You want the egg to be dry to the touch, but in 100% humid environment. I don't worry about the humidity in my box itself, in my incubation box. I just control the humidity in these cups. I use 2 pinholes, tiny pinholes, like you can barely even see them. You have to feel for them. And that's what I use for air transfer in these. That way I don't have to open them at all for the duration of the incubation. So I'm going to put this other egg in this cup. And these eggs are pretty durable. I mean, you don't want to squeeze on them, but they're a lot less delicate than people think, especially right at lay, or within the first, couple days. Towards the later part of the incubation, they get a little more fragile. But so that's my egg setup. That's how I put them in there. And also, back to the extra hydration in the cups. The reason that I add the extra hydration is because I've found that the most issues I've had as far as deformities or spinal truncations or short tails and stuff like that with fat tails is on cups that I had to add hydration to sometime throughout the incubation process. So the humidity was 100% and then it went down and then it came back up. Because obviously if I had just let it go all the way down, the egg would have dried out. And those babies hatched and survived, but a lot of those had truncated tails to some degree. Some of them barely, some of them pretty severe. So as I've increased humidity at the beginning of the incubation process, I've had significantly less of those occurrences. So that's the reason for adding the extra moisture in there, but you got to make sure again that your egg is not sitting in wet rocks or wet substrate. It's got to be, sitting on a dry material, or only a damp material. The temps that I incubate at, and I'm gonna take y'all over to my incubator here in a little while and show you the actual setup of the incubator. But the temps that I incubate at is 83 for females and I've found that anything below about 82 can be fatal or lethal or whatever for the babies once they're long term. Some of them won't hatch at all. Some of them will hatch and fail pretty quickly at that temp. But I found that 83, 84 mark is a much better temp to incubate females at, and I still get like 99.5% females from that temp. And then my males I incubate at about 87 degrees. Once I got above, whenever I was incubating at like 89, I was finding a lot of females at that temperature. Like it was going the way these temp swings work when you have temp sex geckos, to my understanding, is, you know, you have the female temp and then it rises and you get to the male temp, and then if you keep going, before you get to a lethal temp, it swings back to mostly females. And at that 88, 89, 90 degree temp, I was getting mostly females. So once I got down to about 87 degrees on my male incubator, I've been more consistently producing males. So that's a definite, you know, important part there. So basically, they have a pretty small window from 83, 84 to about 87, 88 is your ideal temps to incubate at. In between there, right smack in the middle, you'll probably get a combination, you know, pretty 50-50 combination of gender. So that's the temps that I incubate at. So humidity, 100%, temps, 83 and 87 is my target temps on my temp sex females and temp sex males. And I think that's the majority of the information on there. The duration of incubation for the males, I find it to be about close to 40 days on the males at 87 degrees, and on the females it's about 65, even sometimes 70 at that 83, 84 degrees. So now I'm going to take y'all over to the incubator and show y'all kind of how I built my incubators. I did them myself, and they are very, very effective. So I'll kind of run through that with y'all so that you know how to do it yourself if you want. Oh, forgot to mention, the way that I do my cup lids is I write the name or ID number of the female on the top, and then I write the date that it was laid, and then I write whether it's going in temp sex female or temp sex male. I put an F or an M at the bottom. And so that way I can accurately identify each baby when they hatch and know where it came from. All right, so we got some cool stuff in the incubator this morning. So I'm gonna flip this around. Okay, a few more things that I forgot to add on the incubators. Some of you may have seen this flash whenever I was shown inside the incubator. This is my sensor for what's called sensor push. And it is one of the many companies or products that you can get that is a temperature monitoring system. So that doesn't control anything, it just monitors, and it gives me a feed on my phone 24 hours a day. I can look at and see what my incubators are reading as far as temperature, and it'll show you humidity too. But like I said, I don't care about the humidity inside the box itself. I just care about the humidity in the cups. So that is the temperature monitoring systems I have. Also, really, really important, these whatever incubator you use, no matter what type, it's only as good as the thermostat that you have running it. So that's so critical. Make sure that you invest in a quality thermostat no matter which route you go on an incubator. I've used Herpstats, I've used Variable Electronics. They've both done awesome for me. They're both great products. They both have a little bit of pros and cons, but they're both awesome, you know, to use. And that's what I recommend is one of those. If you're gonna invest in this and decide you're going to do this, then I would definitely recommend doing it the right way and sticking to the better brands on your thermostat, because that's the most important part of this whole system. I think that's it, guys. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions. Later. All right, so these are my two incubators that I have set up. That's my Temp Sex male box, and that's my Temp Sex female box. And first I'm gonna show you all the cool babies that are waiting for us this morning to get unpacked. We got a couple of Leos, because yes, we do still mess with Leos. This is a beautiful little white and yellow Max Snow Bold from one of my projects. And this is a really nice bold stripe. Gorgeous, gorgeous markings on her. And then we've got a couple of Black Velvet Project animals. There's a Oreo Stinger from the Black Velvet stuff. And then here is a Oreo from the Black Velvet Project. And then here is a gecko that is really cool story behind this one. First of all, this is only like I'm not 100% sure exactly what I'm looking at here. I know it's a whiteout A-male patty striped. And I think it's also Oreo, but I won't know for sure about that until after a few sheds. But the story on this gecko is, sometimes with fat tails, it's kind of hard to tell if the females grab it or not. And with the mom that laid this gecko, she didn't appear gravid, and so I was still pairing her with the male every so often. And she apparently laid her egg in the male humid hide, and I didn't realize until like 3 weeks later, I found this egg, not even buried, just sitting in the humid hide of the male that I had paired her to. And it was still not dried up or anything. It was fine. And so I pulled it and put it in the incubator, and it hatched. And look at how gorgeous. So honestly, this egg should have dried up, but luckily we had kept that humid hide just right for those 3 weeks or so, and it didn't dry up. So enough of the cool babies. Now back to the incubator itself. So this is my homemade incubator. It's made out of a 6-foot tall wine cooler. I think it originally held like 120 bottles or something. I like the ones with the false back, so you can put the heat tape behind the back. A few really important points is that you want to maximize your heat tape, so put as much heat tape as you can. This one has heat tape all the way from 5 feet high to about a foot from the bottom, and it's got 12-inch heat tape that goes across almost the whole back. That way it doesn't have to output as much energy to recover whenever it's recovering from being open like it is right now. Another thing about temperature recovery is you'll notice all these water bottles I have in here. These are gallon-sized jugs, so I've got like over 30 gallons of water inside this box. And the reason for that is to minimize airspace. It's really, really important in temperature recovery to have as little airspace as possible, because every time this door gets open like this, all the cubic inches of air that are inside of this box are getting evacuated with room temp air. So right now it's like 75, 76 in this room, and so instead of 84 degrees, all this air temp is 76 right now. As soon as I close it, that heat tape goes to working and does its job, but it doesn't have to do its job nearly as hard because these bottles didn't change temp. They're still 83 degrees. The air temp changed temp. So now it's going to take half the time to recover, which makes it twice as efficient. And you'll see the same thing on my male incubator. Lots of water everywhere. Bottles of water everywhere. Basically, I put in as much water as I can, and I'm taking bottles out to put eggs in. What you see the little lights from is PC fans, computer fans that I install where the original fans went, because I gut these things. I eliminate all the heating elements. All the cooling elements, and I add my heat tape, and then I add my fans to where it's constantly circulating the air. And those fans are running 24/7. Another really important thing is backup power supply, guys. Check this out. This is they call it a UPS, or a back UPS, okay? I recommend the APC brand because there are some other brands out there, and I've had some fail on me. This brand here has awesome reviews, and I've had great luck with them. buy the biggest one that you can afford. And that's because the more storage it has, the longer it's going to last in the event of power failures. So the only thing that I have hooked up to that is my thermostat that I'm running my incubators on, and my fans that are running in the incubators. That's all that's on the battery part of that. And so that way, in the event of power failure, my incubators don't miss a beat. They don't ever stop working exactly like they are right now until that battery runs out, which in my experience, that battery can last a good several days before it's really in a bind. So that's a really important aspect there. Make sure that you're able to get to all your eggs and stack all your eggs without knocking over other eggs. So you want to make certain that your incubator is large enough that you can move around in there and not have to be super cramped. I've found that's a big help overall. And let's see what else. I think that's it, guys. Good luck. Hope y'all do well with this, and I hope this is helpful for everybody. And please let me know if you have any questions or if I missed anything that I should have gone over, and I'll make another video. Thanks, guys, and have a great one. Later.